Hello everyone, it's going to be Line back to you with another video. This video pertains to the Ziyah Harris case, as there has been an update in this story. Before I begin, I would like to extend my continued support and condolences to the Harris family. In addition, my support to the victims, known and unknown, of the defendant in this case, Jarvis Butts. In a preliminary examination for Jarvis Butts, which was held from January 6th to January 9th, 2025, in which Butts was charged in the homicide of missing 13-year-old Ziyah Harris. It has been confirmed that Butts will stand trial in the homicide of Ziyah Harris. Butts is charged with first-degree premeditated homicide, second-degree criminal SA conduct, and child SA activity. Text messages between the victim and the defendant confirmed that Ziyah Harris was pregnant by Butts in 2023. It should be noted that there were allegations made on Ziyah Harris's behalf in 2022 to CPS. In addition, Butts has also been charged with 2 additional SA cases in which one of the victims involved is one of Butts's children. It should also be noted that Butts was convicted for SA in 2005, in which prosecutors have called Butts a serial child R-word who SA'd an 8-year-old family member and a girlfriend's 4-year-old child who reportedly caught a virus from the assault. As previously reported, Ziyah Harris was last seen getting off her school bus at the corner of Cornwall and 3 Mile Drive in Detroit on January 9th, 2024. Her body has never been recovered. Prosecutors have argued that there was enough evidence through testimony from one of Butts's business partners, cell tower tracking data, testimony which claims that they have seen Butts and Ziyah Harris together the evening she disappeared, and several of Ziyah Harris's belongings in the areas investigators tracked Butts in the days following her disappearance to prove that Butts unalived Ziyah Harris. The defense, however, argued that there wasn't enough connection between the alleged evidence to suggest that Butts intended and caused Ziyah Harris's unaliving. More than 20 witnesses, including experts, family members, and law enforcement officials, spoke in court over the past 4 days. An expert testified that showed Butts's phone sometime after 4 p.m. on January 9th, 2024, at his shops on Corner Street. Between that time and a little before 7:30 p.m. The data showed the phone's location heading to another location consistent with what one witness testified about seeing Nazaya Harris with butts. Further analysis showed more activity from his cell phone near his shop once again between 8:22 p.m. and 9 p.m. on January 9th, 2024. Another exhibit showed Butts' phone activity between 11:40 p.m. on January 10th and 1:30 a.m. on January 11th, 2024, near the area of 7 Mile and Berg Roads. It is the same location where crews search for Nazaya Harris's body. Once again, they never found her, but they did find a jacket, a pink onesie, and a black Nike shoes that matched what witnesses described the teen wearing when she went missing. The expert then testified that Butt's phone activity showed near the Park Crest Inn in Harper Woods, in which additional witnesses testified that Butts would allegedly take women there to have relations. Additional witnesses included Nazaya Harris's grandmother, Annette Harris, who adopted Nazaya Harris back in 2016. She made the report on January 10th, 2024, instead of January 9th, when Nazaya initially did not come home. She stated in part she spoke to school officials that morning and they called officers. She would later state in her testimony that Nazaya Harris was active on social media and there has been no additional posts made by Nazaya Harris after January 9th, 2024. She also informed the court that there is little to no communication between Nazaya Harris and her mother. She also stated that one of her daughters, Shannon Harris, moved in with her in October 2023. This is critical as Shannon Harris and Jarvis Butts have 5 children together. Back to Annette Harris, who is Nazaya Harris's grandmother. She stated she drove around looking for Nazaya on January 9th, 2024, and went to bed and then informed school officials the next morning. She stated that Butts would come over the house, and she claimed that it was very rare that Butts came in the house. She would state he would park outside and the kids would see him outside. She stated that the only time Nazaya would have seen Butts is if Shannon was out there. She further stated that she pulled Nazaya Harris out of the after-school program because she was having an issue with a schoolmate in which a fight broke out between the 2 students. She claimed on January 9th, 2024, she picked up the other kids at the after-school program and claimed to be frustrated when Nazaya was not home. She claims again she went and drove around the neighborhood and did not see Naziyah Harris. She would also state that Naziyah and one of Butts's children would go to Butts's auto shop. However, she claims she did not go to Butts's shop when Naziyah Harris didn't come home. She also claims that the two had a close relationship, and if she was having issues, Naziyah Harris would come and speak to her. As previously stated, Shannon Harris and Jarvis Butts have 5 children together, though Jarvis Butts has multiple children outside of this on and off relationship. Shannon Harris would inform the court that Jarvis Butts knew her niece Naziyah Harris since she was 2 years old. She would describe the relationship as a normal uncle-niece bond between Butts and Naziyah Harris and claimed that they had no outside relationship to her knowledge. Shannon Harris would further state that Naziyah Harris would go to Butts's auto shop with one of her children. She stated that she did not know her niece to go to Butts's shop by herself. She would later claim that she saw messages between Naziyah Harris and Butts on Naziyah's tablet and confronted Butts via text. She would claim on January 9th, 2024, she did not leave the house after 3. When asked did she see Naziyah Harris, she stated no. Instead of looking for her niece, Shannon Harris stated she called other relatives and Naziyah Harris's friends to see if she was with them. Later on, Shannon Harris claims that she asked her mother should they call the cops, in which her mother stated no, they will take it up in the morning. On January 10th, 2024, according to Shannon Harris, she stated that she went to get flyers set up for missing posts for her niece Naziyah Harris. She would confirm that her niece Naziyah Harris never ran away and would not stay away from home. One of Naziyah Harris's younger cousins testified about being in the room with another cousin while Butts took advantage and had relations with Naziyah Harris. The cousin stated it was the first time she witnessed Butts coercing relations on her cousins. The younger cousin would testify that he would try to make advances toward her at one point, but she stated she was able to say no after recognizing what he was trying to do. Another witness who took the stand was Butts's ex-fiancée, Tanisha Davis, in which she stated they started dating back in 2019 and were engaged in 2023. She stated in part she was with him when Butts was supposed to turn himself in on January 9th, 2024. When officers initially met with her, she claimed she didn't know where Butts's phone was, so officers had to get a warrant for Davis's car in which they found Butts's phone. She would further state that Butts was around her children and would come over twice a week and park his car around the corner and would leave her house at 2 a.m. claiming he was going home. Another witness who took the stand was Latricia Johnson, who met Butts back in 2019. They have a child together who is 2 years old. As Johnson was being questioned, Johnson became annoyed and disgruntled while being on the stand. Another witness who was called was Tawan Butts. Tawan Butts is the sibling of Jarvis Butts. She would inform authorities that she saw Ziyah Harris the day she went missing on January 9th, 2024 at the shop where Butts works and owns. She would further state she went to get her car fixed at around 4 p.m. and left at around 6 to 6:30 p.m. She noticed a little girl in and out of Butts's car. Another witness called is Miss Valerie Smith, a neighbor of the area in which she spotted an ID for 2.5 weeks. Once she picked up the ID, she realized it was Ziyah Harris's ID and knew that she went missing. She informed the bus driver and went to a local gas station and got a lid to place the ID on. She informed persons in the gas station to call 911. Officers came and took the information and ID and brought her back to the spot where she saw the ID. Judge Sabre found that there was enough evidence to let a jury decide the case and sent the case over to the Third Circuit Court for trial. Judge Sabre would state in part, "You're the monster in this whole picture. She did deserve love from her parents and everyone who was in her life. She was ignored, she was neglected, and you took complete advantage of that. She wanted someone to love her, and she will never know what that feels like. I pray for the healing of all the victims and the young girls and possibly boys who have come into contact with you. As a community, we should look at this case as a prime example of how much work we have to do when it comes to protecting our children, and especially our Black girls. A jury trial is set for January 16th, 2025. Now you will watch this brief news clip, and I will be back with my commentary.
More than 20 witnesses testified this week at a pretrial hearing. Good evening. I'm Meredith Bruckner.
And I'm Terrence Friday. Today's final witness shed more light on the extent of the alleged predatory relationship in this case, and the judge had some harsh words for the suspect when delivering her ruling. CBS News Detroit's Jack Springate is reporting now outside of the 36th District Courthouse with more.
Well, for Ziyah's family and loved ones, it was a decision they've been hoping for ever since they heard about these allegations. And this has been a week that's been full of emotions in a case that's been full of disturbing details, especially today, 365 days since Ziyah was last seen. The judge listened to the prosecution make their final arguments. They believe there's enough evidence through November's testimony from one of Butts' business partners, cell tower tracking data, testimony from someone who claims to have seen Butts and Ziyah together the evening she disappeared, and a number of Ziyah's belongings. And the area investigators tracked Butts the day following her disappearance to prove that Jarvis Butts murdered Ziyah. They say her clothes found near 7 Mile and Berg Road with blood stains and Butts' DNA, as well as her disappearance completely from social media, should be enough evidence to prove that she's not only dead, but that Butts is the person behind it. The defense argued that there's not enough connection between the alleged evidence to suggest that Butts intended to cause Ziyah's death. Ultimately, Judge Sabri found that there is enough evidence to let a jury decide whether or not that is the case.
Jarvis Butts, you are the monster in this whole picture. She did deserve love from her parents and everyone who was in her life. She was ignored, she was neglected, and you took complete advantage of that. She wanted someone to love her, and she will never know what that feels like. I pray for the healing of all the victims and the young girls and possibly boys who have come into contact with you. As a community, we should look at this case as a prime example of how much work we have to do when it comes to protecting our children and especially our Black girls. I pray for closure and healing for all those who have been traumatized by you. And for you, Jarvis Butts, I wish you a speedy trial and that justice be delivered.
I also caught up with one of Ziyah's cousins following the decision to see how they are reacting to this upcoming jury trial.
She held him accountable. She pointed out very significant things, even down to his body language during the whole thing. And I just really, me and my family just really appreciate her for that.
Now, 1 year after Ziyah was last seen, Judge Sabri set this jury trial for January 16th. That's just 1 week from now. Make sure you stay with us here on CBS as we follow this trial from start to finish. And for now, reporting in front of the 36th District Courthouse, I'm Jack Springate.
This baby was failed on so many levels. Not only was she failed within her own household, but she was failed outside of it as well, because the adults chose either to dismiss, ignore this precious baby. I've said this before and I will say it again. Yes, Jarvis Butts needs to be brought to trial, but the adults inside of the household, which includes Ziyah Harris's grandmother and Ziyah Harris's auntie, need to be brought in for child neglect. Again, I'm talking to the women who are watching this video. We all know when a child is acting different, not grown, not being feisty, but when a child who is acting a certain way, their patterns, their routines, all of a sudden is changing. That's something that every woman knows. Don't tell me that you did not know that this baby was pregnant. This baby was missing her cycle. This baby was 12, 13 years old. And every month, this baby has to get her cycle. The minute you guys noticed that she was not getting her cycle, it should have been a red flag that something was off. Something was off. But you chose to go to your bed while this baby is out here missing. You claim you love this baby. You claim you have a close relationship with this child. And when this child does not come home, y'all go to y'all bed. Once Ziyah was not home, y'all should have brought y'all behinds to the darn police station and filed a missing persons report. You stated that this baby has never ran away. So how come you guys could have went to y'all Ross Clock bed and not think about this precious baby? The judge was absolutely right. This baby was ignored and was neglected, but saw that and he took full advantage of the whole situation. And the adults failed this baby. One thing that stood out to me while the auntie and grandmother were giving out their testimonies was their lack of empathy. Not once did they ever shed a tear for Ziyah Harris. Not once did they show heartache for losing this baby. And that's something that prosecutors, I hope, will use in this case to prove that they were neglecting this baby. One of the MVPs I will shout out is Mrs. Valerie Smith. She did the right thing by picking up that ID. Yes, she saw an ID for 2.5 weeks. But how many persons were walking past that ID going about their day-to-day lives? How many persons saw that ID and walked past that ID? I'm glad Miss Valerie, once she saw that it was Ziyah Harris's ID, she went and sought assistance, which led to officers putting this ID at a critical point within this investigation. Another MVP in my eyes is Tawan Butts, who is the sibling of Jarvis Butts. She could have not informed authorities that she saw Ziyah Harris with her brother on January 9th, 2024. She had empathy and emotion for this little girl over her own grandmother and auntie who was living with her. Tawan Butts knew something was off and did not withhold information. What she did was prove that I will not condone your foolishness. You are a danger to the community, and I will not condone your behavior. This has to be heart-wrenching to know that her brother could have or indeed violated not only one child, but a child who was coming into this world, and other victims violated by her own sibling. It's a hard pill to swallow, but she did the right thing. In addition, Ziyah Harris's great aunts and cousins who reported their concerns and allegations to CPS testified and advocated on their loved ones' behalf. Again, it is not easy to see that a child is in danger and you're doing your due diligence and no one is listening until it's too late. I'm glad that they have it on record that persons were advocating on Ziyah Harris's behalf because her auntie and her grandmother failed her. Which leads me to the woman that had relations with this known P word. This man violated his own kin and other children in the process. And these women are acting as if, how dare the court summons them to testify against butts as if they're the victims. We live in a society where grown women are jealous of young girls because their man don't want them no more. They want young, fresh meat. And that's the problem. We have grown women in their little feelings because Jarvis Butts played them. Butts used these women to gain access to their children and other people's children and violated numerous children along the way. Again, the adults within that household failed Ziyah Harris and they need to be investigated. The CPS officials that did not follow up with these allegations also needs to be investigated, because how many more children have they neglected or dismissed in the system? That's a question for prosecutors to fully do a thorough investigation, because I don't think it's just these 3 cases that Butts is involved with. I think it's plenty more. And these women are acting as if Jarvis is the victim. This man violated a child who is no longer here with another child inside of her. And their demeanor, their attitude says a whole lot about how this little girl had to be placed in a grown-up situation, and the adults are in them little feelings. At the end of the day, Ziyah Harris is no longer here, nor her child. It is sad because Ziyah Harris had a bright future, and the adults around her did not nurture her gifts, her feelings, or protected her when she needed them the most. I've said this before and I will say it again. We have to treat missing persons cases as if it is a criminal case. I promise you, the attitudes towards missing persons cases, it needs to be changed. And I need everyone to stop assuming that a person, regardless of their age, just ran away. Everyone has a pattern and or routine. If that person is not home or at their destination in which they stated they would be, something occurred. We should stop dismissing missing persons cases, especially when it is a Black child or an adult. It needs to stop. In addition, we need to be mindful of the information we are sharing online, because there are critical information that can be misused and be misguided, which can be weaponized against the victim and their family members. Time is of the essence, and we need to be mindful of when we see misinformation, disinformation, aka lying on someone who went missing. If it did not come from the authorities or their relatives or a cited trusted source, please do not share that information, as it can hinder and hurt the missing persons case moving forward. I will leave in the comments and description below for organizations and hotlines as it pertains to missing persons cases. Protect Black children. Say their names, known and unknown. Say her name, Ziyah Harris. Justice for Ziyah Harris. And as always, please be safe out here, and I will see you in the next video.